Alright, so we got 6 hours before the next game between the Seattle Sounders versus LA Galaxy is going to kick off, which means that this is a perfect time for me to look at all 6 of these games that happen as part of the Saturday nightcap action of week number 3. And then on the very next board, I'll look at the game that just finished a couple of minutes ago, which was Nashville SC versus Inter Miami. And that game, there were definitely some controversy, which we'll get to near the end of this video. But in terms of these nightcap action that happened yesterday, well, there were once again some surprising resort. But this was also the second week in a row where if you were an MLS team that is currently in CCL and play in the middle of the week in that CCL quarterfinal first leg action, well, this was another rough week for you in league play. In fact, all 5 MLS teams that currently is still in CCL did not get a win this week again, although technically one of them did not even play this week, that is Toronto FC. So technically it should be all 4 MLS teams that currently is in CCL that of course played this week weren't able to get a victory, and 3 of those 4 teams actually suffer a loss during this weekend action that they have in league play, and one of those teams is Atlanta United, who suffer a 2-1 loss to New England on the road. And, you know, coming into this game, I did say in the preview that Heinze kind of have a bit of a dilemma to deal with, where do he decided to put a strong squad in this game, knowing the fact that he knows that there's no way that they can come back from a 3-0 deficit that they suffer against the Union in the first leg? Or does he feels like maybe there's still some hope that they could overcome that 3-0 deficit, so he decided to go with a rotated squad, and he basically rest some of these guys so that they can, of course, get ready to maybe do a miraculous comeback in that second leg in Philadelphia to overcome a 3-0 deficit that they suffer against the Union. Well, it turns out that in this game, he decided to kind of choose the latter option, and in some way, I'm kind of surprised that he chose the latter option, because I really think it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to overcome a 3-0 deficit against the Union. I mean, it was already hard for them to try to overcome if they were playing at home, but especially with the way that they're going to have to go on the road, that just makes it even tougher. And that I would have thought that maybe Gabriel Heinze would focus more on league play and just kind of accept the fact that they're probably going to get eliminated in the quarterfinal and move away in terms of focusing on CCL. But, you know, because he did start a relatively weak squad, this was really a game for the Revs to lose, which thankfully they were able to take advantage of that. Although early on in the 6th minute, Matt Turner did have to make a save to deny Moreno a chance for Atlanta to get a 1-0 lead. But then New England started to take over this game as Buchanan in the 14th minute steered one just wide after a great ball coming in from Adam Buxa. Kessler unfortunately hit the post in the 17th minute before eventually all that pressure that they put on Atlanta would pay off in the 18th minute when Brandon Bice scored his first goal of the season from Carlos Hill and Andrew Phil to give the Revs a 1-0 lead before Guzan was able to rob Buxa after he tipped Buxa shot over the bar. And, you know, the Revs, again, they were just all over Atlanta. But yet, you know, one thing that I think the Revs had struggled last season, and things that is kind of like one of their biggest Achilles heel, is that they always have problem whenever they get into the final third and also put chances away. And this was another game where it kind of shows the similar problem that they had last season, where as much as they are on the front foot and they are the better side, they always tends to have problem to score goals or even put away opponent. And as the fact that this game continued to be 1-0, I was kind of worried that New England eventually is going to give up something on the other end that could potentially cost them. And it did happen in this one, because in the 40th minute, they gave a penalty away on the other end. I think it was Brendan Bye, the one that brought Marcelino Moreno down in the box. But nevertheless, it was a penalty for Atlanta. Moreno, of course, stepped up to put that one away. And all of a sudden, despite the fact that New England were all over Atlanta in this game, it's a tie game between both of these teams heading into halftime. Now, heading into the second half, you can clearly see the Revs were looking to try to get that lead back. And they almost did it in the 48th minute when Matt Polster hit one just wide from long range. And originally, I had to double check to see if that was Matt Polster, the one that hits that one, because it's not very often you see him hit one from long range. And he actually didn't miss that one by much, but nevertheless, it did went wide, and the game remained at 1 apiece. But in the 50th minute, New England had a big opportunity to get an equalizer after they were awarded a penalty. Although, actually, no, they did not originally award a penalty, but instead a free kick just outside the box. As originally they said that Sosa actually brought down Brendan by outside the box, but then they did go to VAR to see whether or not if that was the wrong decision. And in the end, when they did go to VAR to see the replay, they decided that that was actually the wrong decision, and they overturned to see that Sosa indeed brought down Brendan by in the box. And I also saw the replay of this a couple of times, and I'll tell you what, it is very close. Like, it seems like Brendan by was brought down by Sosa right on the line, but since when you bring a player down right on the line, that of course is still inside the box. So the penalty was given. Carlos Hill made no mistake to bury that one to give the refs a 2-1 lead and the lead back in this one. Then the refs were shouting for another penalty being called just 8 minutes later after they thought Brooks Lennon brought down Tristensen in the box, but this time the referee did not award the refs a penalty. And then as we get closer into the end of this game, I was thinking that maybe the refs continue to push to try to get that third goal, but instead, as the game kind of wind down, they kind of started to sit back a little bit, and because they decided to kind of sit back a little bit and kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit, that did led Atlanta to start to come back into this game, and they were really started to press to try to get the equalizer, though that chances was took a big hit in the last 10 minutes of this game, as Atlanta did had to go down to 10 men after Ezekiel Barco did had to come off of an injury, and obviously Atlanta was out of sub at that point, so they were forced to play with 10 men. Although the good news about that injury is that we know for sure it's not a head injury, because under this new rule that we had in MLS, if Barco did suffer a head injury there, he would also be subbed off by another Atlanta player, since there is this new rule where if the player does suffer a concussion and if you're already out of substitution, you can still make an additional sub. So it's good to see that this of course wasn't actually a head injury, although I actually didn't see what exactly was the injury that Barco suffered in this game. But despite the fact that Atlanta tried their best to push to get that equalizer, in the end, New England did hold on to win 2-1 in this one. And the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 11 that Atlanta has, 6 shots on goal compared to 4 that Atlanta has, 6 shots off target compared to 3 that Atlanta has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that New England has in this game. And despite the fact that it wasn't really a pretty game for the refs, they do get the 3 points that they deserve, with the way that they seems to be by far the better team for the majority of this game. And for Atlanta, again, as soon as when I saw how they were going with a relatively weak squad, I kind of knew that they had no shot in terms of winning this game. And it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if this is the right decision heading into that second leg game against the Union, because if Atlanta aren't able to overcome that deficit, which is most likely that is the case, then I think there's got to be question of why exactly Heinz still wants to put a weak squad and kind of really focus on CCL when the situation that his team is in CCL is already started to be a little bit dire. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, and the team that Atlanta is going to play in CCL in a couple of days in the second leg is the Philadelphia Union, who also lost this week as they took a 2-0 loss against NYCFC, and this game really was over after 14 minutes when there was a red card that was shown by a Union player, which I'll talk about how that was probably the most deserved red card I've seen so far this season. But 4 minutes into this game, Jesus Medina was able to score from Tinnerholm to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead. Jesus Medina has really been red hot to start the season, which that has to be great news for NYCFC, because for the past couple of years, it's been kind of frustrating for NYCFC knowing how much they spent for Jesus Medina, and he has not really lived up to his potential. Well, with how good of a start he has got off this season, it seems like maybe finally Jesus Medina is showing that potential and showing the amount that NYCFC paid him that is now seems to be worth it. But in the 14th minute, this is when the red card, of course, happened, and it's Jose Martinez, the one that, of course, got got the marching order here. And again, this is probably the most deserved red card I've seen so far this season, because it is pretty clear that Jose Martinez elbowed Tati Castellanos in the face. And although Castellanos did his trademark Neymar kind of roll as he got hit in the face, whenever you decide to elbow a player in the face, that is always going to be an automatic red card. And, you know, this is kind of the thing that I think Jose Martinez need to improve in his game, because as much as I know a lot of people said that he is considered one of the best number 6 in this league, he always have that tendency to kind of play the game on the edge and sometimes make those unnecessary challenge, and also at times where emotion gets the best of him. And in this play, I don't know what he was thinking here, and you know, I know he was trying to battle with Castellanos to win the ball, but there was just no need for him to just intentionally whack his elbow into Castellanos' face. And again, there's no doubt that that is an automatic red card, and I won't be surprised when Disco does see this play that Martinez might not actually just suffer a 1-game suspension in this one, because anytime when you decide to elbow a player, that is always going to be worthy for at least an additional game suspension. So for Jose Martinez, he could actually be sitting out for the Union for a couple of weeks, and this is even after he's also not going to be available in the next game against Atlanta in the second leg, because he of course picked up too many yellow cards in CCL, and he of course is suspended for that one too. Now Castellanos did had a chance in the 17th minute, but unfortunately he missed a sitter from 4 yards out. I'm not quite sure was he still suffering from that knock earlier, because that was just an absolute sitter that he of course missed. Although I would say that that's kind of typical of Tati Castellanos, because we saw a couple of times last season where some of the easiest chance he had to basically put the ball into the back of net, and somehow he of course missed it. But then Andre Blake would rob Maxi Morales after the shot was actually deflected, and it was actually looked like it was going to head to the top left of the corner, but Blake was able to put that one behind for a corner. NYCFC was in complete control in this game, and Blake was really the only reason that this was at 1-0. I mean, Andre Blake, he basically showed the form in this game that was similar to what he did in Atlanta, where he was trying to keep his team as long as possible and making some incredible save to keep this one at 1-0. But unfortunately throughout this game, it seems like it was more of him just kind of getting hung out to dry with the way that the defense in front of him was not very good. And also going forward on the attack, they pretty much did nothing going forward against that NYCFC defense. Now, in the second half, Blake would once again rob Morales, this time from long-range effort, before eventually NYCFC did get that crucial second goal, and it's Castellanos that scored to make it 2-0, and this was an absolute gift that Castellanos got from Jacob Glesnes, who basically tried to clear the ball away, but instead of heading that ball away, he actually headed straight into the path of Castellanos, who basically puts it into the back of the net and make amends of his horror miss that he had in the 17th minute. But yeah, that makes it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC, and that turns out to be the final score of this game, as there wasn't really much that happened in the final 25 minutes of this one. As the shots in this game, 23 shots compared to 4 that the Union has, 7 shots on goal compared to none that the Union has, 12 shots off target to 2 that the Union has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 67% possession that NYCFC had compared to 33% possession that the Union has in this game. And this is just one of those games where the stats pretty much just tells the story, where NYCFC was just absolutely dominating this game, and the Union decided to pretty much take this week off and pretty much maybe thinking to just kind of punt this game away so that they can of course get ready for that second leg game against Atlanta. Although that being said, I've also mentioned how they have a big 3-0 cushion in that game, so I didn't think that they really need to just necessarily punt this game away and just hand NYCFC all 3 points in this game. But apparently that's of course what they did, and also it doesn't help the fact that they went down to 10 men so early in this one. But moving on into the next match is going to be Orlando and FC Cincinnati. So Orlando, they get their first win of the season by winning 3-0 against FC Cincinnati. And for Cincinnati, yeah, I mean, the good news is at least they didn't concede 5, although early on it looked like that, of course, was the case, because 1 minute into this game and precisely about 30 seconds into this game, Tesha Akindele scores the opening goal in this one, and this was a WTF turnover from Nick Haglund that basically just gave the ball right to Akindele, who went through on goal, and he made no mistake to give Orlando City a 1-0 lead. Then it almost was 2-0 in favor of Orlando when Junior Urso puts it high from close range. Then Akindele had a chance to make it 2-0 and score his second in the 14th minute, but he blasts one high. Before it was 2-0 in favor of Orlando City, and it's Nani, the one that makes it 2-0 in this game. And not only this is a goal of the week contention, but this was a vintage Nani kind of play where he basically just turned a couple of FC Cincinnati defenders, completely made them look like fools before bending that one to the top left corner to make it 2-0 in this game. Then 3 minutes later, it almost was 3-0, or actually at that point it only made it 2-0 in favor of Orlando City. But a couple of minutes later, it could have been 3-0 in favor of Orlando, but the woodwork unfortunately denied them that and actually denied Nani his second goal in quick succession. And I also wrote this could get very ugly for FC Cincinnati, and in fact I think they're very fortunate the fact that they're only down 2-0 with the way that it looked like Orlando with how many chances that they had in the first 23 minutes. This could have been easily 4 or 5-0 in favor of Orlando. Now, in the 35th minute, Barrero did have a chance for Cincinnati as he went through on goal, but unfortunately missed wide. Before heading into the second half with Orlando leading 2-0, Mueller had a chance to make it 3-0, but he hit one wide on the volley. Teton did deny Nani his second goal in the 63rd minute before Mendes had a chance to make it 3-0, but he drags his shot just a little bit wide from long range in the 66th minute. But in the 80th minute, it would be 3-0 in favor of Orlando City, and it's Junior Urso scores from Benji Michel to make it 3-0 in favor of the home side, and that would be the final score of this game as Orlando absolutely dominated this game against FC Cincinnati. Probably going to be the easiest win that they're going to get this season, as the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 7 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots on goal compared to none that Cincinnati has, 12 shots off target compared to 5 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And I believe this is also the second game in a row that Cincinnati did not register a shot on goal. And, you know, I do started to feel bad for Cincinnati, and that I also have heard that a lot of their fans have been sending wooden spoon to the front office to kind of express their frustration of seeing this team losing by a big margin every week. And you know, I don't blame them, because this has just not been great for this team, and for a team that actually maybe had some expectation of not finish in the wooden spoon spot, and especially with the amount that they spent in the offseason, there's no way in the world they should be finding themselves in the same position that they seems to be in for the first 2 seasons, where this has already looked like a team that could potentially win the wooden spoon for the 3rd year in a row. But let's hope maybe that can potentially change for this team. And again, you know, we're only 3 games into the season. This is still small sample size in terms of Cincinnati. It seems to be stuck in the same position that they were in the first 2 years, but if they continue that, I expect somebody potentially is going to get fired from that team, and there's going to continue to be a lot of frustration that's going to happen in that fan base. Which, you know, all I ask for Cincinnati is that hopefully, if in the future they can maybe start to be respectable, because I think this fan base deserve better with the product on the field that they had to endure with this team ever since this team came into the league a couple of years ago. But now, moving on, in terms of the next match, speaking of another team that is off to a rough start and is in the rough patch, is Minnesota. So the nightmare continue for the Loons. And also, I am wearing this Austin FC jersey. And right now, anytime when Austin FC gets a win, and when I do a review where Austin FC gets a win, I'm going to be wearing my Austin FC jerseys, because I really love this verde and black jersey that they, of course, had. And even though they weren't wearing this jersey for this game, because, you know, they are the road team and they're going to be the road team until till June, and I think they're not going to be wearing this until they play their first ever home game against the Quakes in June. I obviously just love this jersey so much. But in terms of this game, they did it again. This is their second win in a row after they took down Minnesota in this one, and also getting their first ever clean sheet in club history by shutting them out. But for Minnesota, as I said, the nightmare just continued with this team. And, once again, when you look at this game, the defense, even though they only conceded one goal in this game, I didn't think they were good again in this one, with the way that, there were a couple of times where they really gave Austin FC some really good opportunity. And if Austin was a little bit more clinical in this game, this could have been maybe 2 or 3-0 in favor of them. And then also on the attack, it decided not to show up again for the third game in a row. And I'm starting to sense that when I look on this attack, not only the fact that there is clearly some toothless thing going on with how this attack has performed, but there just seems to be a lot of frustration with a lot of these attacking players, where how when a striker tends to go through a goal drought, and that it doesn't matter what he does in front of goal and where he shoots that one, it somehow would not be able to end up into the back of the net. Well, that is kind of the mindset that I think all of these Minnesota attackers are currently having, and if they do not snap out of that mindset, this could be a very long season for a team that was supposed to have expectation to be an MLS Cup contender. Now, in the first half, 7 minutes into the game, Dominguez did have a chance to make it 1-0 as he flicked one that just went wide. Before Jarrett Stroud hits it straight to Dane Sinclair, I thought it was a promising start for Austin FC in the first 10 minutes, and their promising start was rewarded with the game-opening goal in the 17th minute when Diego Fagundes scored from Jarrett Stroud. So Fagundes obviously back on the score sheet after last week. He was the recipient of the team's first ever goal scored in club history. But then in the 19th minute, Hassani Dotson had a deflected shot that just went high over the bar. And, I don't understand why exactly Adrian keep playing Hassani Dotson in the wing area. I mean, I understand Dotson is a versatile player, but he's not a versatile player in a sense that he can basically play on the wing. I mean, I also seen this kind of experiment tried before this season, and I feel like it's time to pull the plug in terms of that experiment, because it just does not work whatsoever. Struver then 1 minute later was able to deny Roman Abila there a chance for Minnesota to get the equalizer before Reynoso unfortunately struck the post in the 30th minute, and that was really the closest thing Minnesota came in terms of scoring a goal in this one. And really, despite the fact that they kind of looked like they were pushing to try to get an equalizer, I also thought that there were times that attack throughout the first half was just way too predictable, and just not enough creativity going forward whatsoever. And also not to mention the fact that when we do get the chances, we always tend to waste them and aren't able to put it on target. So we head to halftime with Austin leading 1-0 in this game. And in the second half, Reynoso did have another chance to try to drive one in, but unfortunately he hits that one high and actually hit a fan in the Wonderwall. And I think that shot pretty much just symbolized the season that Minnesota United is currently having, where it's basically been a ball to the face with the way how poor that they have started this season. Then Stroud probably should have made it 2-0 in the 62nd minute, as he had an opportunity to shoot into the empty net, but unfortunately he missed wide. There was a penalty shout for the Loons in the 78th minute after Ramona bumped Ramona bumped Langstor off the ground. I almost said Ramona bumped Jarrett Stroud into the box. Like, unless there was like a mistake that was made by Austin there, where unfortunately Ramona basically bumped his own teammate. There's no way that was the case. But instead, this was actually him bumping Langsdorff off to the ground, and obviously there was a lot of appeal for a penalty for Minnesota and also the 4,000 fans that was watching in this game. But obviously when I look at it, I didn't think that was a penalty, because not only Langsdorff kind of went down on the ground way too easily, but that would have been an incredible soft penalty to give if that was given. Then 5 minutes later, Stuver was able to rob Patrick Wade of his first MLS goal, and Patrick Wade actually came into to this game late, and I think he probably made the biggest impact going for compared to all these Minnesota attack. Which, when that of course happened, you know that this team is really struggling going for on the attacking end. Now, 1 minute later, Gallagher did had a chance to put this game away, but his shot, of course, was saved by Dane Sinclair. Before Redis, late in this game, had a chance to put the cherry on the top as he went through on goal, but unfortunately, he hit the post during that point. But in the end, Austin was still able to win 1-0 in this one, as the shots in this game, 13 shots apiece from both of these teams, 4 shots on goal compared to the 2 that Minnesota has, 6 shots off target per the 7 that Minnesota has, 4 shots that was blocked per the 3 that Austin had in this game, and possession-wise, 45% possession compared to 55% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And, for Austin FC, I know it's still early in the season, and this is still kind of a small sample size, but this is really looking like a team that can not only finish to be in a respectable position for an expansion team, but they are looking to try to become the 8th playoff or 8th MLS team to make it to the playoff as an expansion team. And as for Minnesota, again, even with this loss, I'm still not at that stage where I am going to be really panicking about this team. But if this does continue, and if these losing streaks start, or if this losing streak continue to climb up, there's no doubt that there is definitely signs of panic, and that I can also understand why there's a lot of frustration that is going on with the Loons fan base. And also, I've been hearing a lot of Heath out kind of hashtag that is going out on right now, which is not surprising, because Adrian Heath, as well as he has done in his time with Minnesota, he has never been a popular figure, and it seems like any time when Minnesota started to go through a rough stretch, Heath immediately is going to get called out, and that the fan base immediately demand the front office to fire Adrian Heath. And again, if this team continue to struggle and continue to lose like the way that they are right now, there's no doubt that the pressure is going to eventually get to Adrian Heath, and that he must be started to really sitting in a harder seat the way that this team has been performed at the start of the season. But now, moving on, in terms of the next game, is Dallas and the Portland Timbers. So you notice I put T2 here because really this was a Timbers 2 side that Giovanni Savarese basically select coming into this game. And this is not to disrespect the Portland Timbers, but again, it's basically, when you look at the starting 11 that Savarese select, this is basically a T2 side, which means that this was also kind of another game where this was one that FC Dallas need to take advantage of it. And thankfully, they were able to take advantage of a weakened Timbers side. And in many ways, they really needed this win with how bad they have been playing in the first 2 games. So they got the goal scoring started early in the 2nd minute when Ricarte was able to score from Holland's heads to make it 1-0 in favor of Dallas. Then it was 2-0 in favor of FC Dallas in the 13th minute as Obrian scored from Felipe. And this is actually one of those rare incidents when a goalkeeper decided to launch a route 1 ball to their striker, and their striker was able to go through on goal and basically put it into the back end net. And honestly, whenever I see that happen, this is just as good as what I see some of the bangers that has been scored this season, because it is very rare where you see a goalkeeper just launch the ball up front, or even very rare to see that actually turns out to be seeing your striker go through and go and put the ball into the back of the net. So yeah, it was definitely very satisfying to see that of course happen. But yeah, at that point, it was 2-0 in favor of Dallas. Timbers 2 did try to get one back, as Bravo did had a 20-yard shot that just went wide. But it would be 3-0 in favor of Dallas, as Brisson would make it 3-0 right on the stroke of halftime. And yeah, this was one that I think Suta, the T2 goalkeeper, he definitely wanted to have this one back with the way that this ball was actually coming right toward him. He kind of fumbled that shot and kind of commit a bit of a howler there, which Brisson was able to take advantage of that. And again, Dallas were able to up 3-0 at that point and heading into halftime. And then in the second half, T2 started to kind of become the Portland Timbers, because Portland decided to bring in the cavalry as Larry, Asprilla, and Williamson started to come into this game. Now, this was kind of surprising that Savarese decided to bring in the Cavalry because they were down 3-0 in this game. There was really no way I can see that they can come back from a 3-0 deficit. And knowing the fact that they do have that important game against Club America in the middle of the week, I would think that Savarese would just kind of rest all his player and not even think about playing them in this game. I mean, the only reason I can think that he is playing some of these guys is that maybe some of these guys can get some minutes so that they can prepare for that midweek game against Copa America. But in the 57th minute, McGraw did have a chance to get one back for the Timber, but unfortunately he hits it wide. Then 1 minute later, he unfortunately suffered the post as he become the victim of the post as he struck that just 1 minute later. But the Timbers did get one back in the 62nd minute as Eric Williamson would score from Diego Valeri to make it 3-1 in favor of Dallas. And then there was a moment in the 75th minute where Savarese actually was doing his best Kobe impression. And this all started when Savarese was kind of having some choice words with Hollinshead and was complaining to Hollinshead that he was wasting time when he was taking the throw in. Obviously, Hollinshead kind of took that personally and decided to kind of pump fake the throw in the direction of Savarese face. And obviously, that definitely kind of sparked some tempers between both of these teams, and both of these teams kind of come together. And also, Hollinshead immediately got a yellow card for that. Now, I've heard people say that Hollinshead should be fined for this. I think that might be a little bit of an overreaction to say that Hollinshead can basically be fined for this, but I guess this is kind of something that sometimes I love to see this happen in a game where we do have kind of some shenanigan and some kind of headlines that happen in the game. And in some way, this is kind of similar to what we also saw in the last game between Minnesota versus RSL, although I think that was kind of maybe the bad shenanigans that we should have with Ochoa basically kind of punting the ball into the stands, which, by the way, that seems like it's kind of like a new tradition for RSL, because I've heard that they also are starting a new tradition where every time when RSL win or when RSL play at Rio Tinto Stadium, Ochoa basically will just punt the ball into the supporter section right after the game, of course, is over. But in this one again, I think this was kind of a shenanigans that does give good kind of talking point, and also kind of do give some interesting thing kind of entertainment into this game, in a game where I thought it was still pretty much over with the way that Dallas was leading 3-1. They did restore that free goal lead in the 85th minute, and it's Dante Sealy that scored his first ever MLS goal from Hara and Palmico. He actually came on a couple of minutes after this shenanigan happened in the 75th minute, and talk about making an instant impact in your MLS debut. I mean, he did exactly that, and although I know that goal really didn't mean much at the end of the game, it still has to feel good for this young kid who is making his Major League Soccer debut, and just 7 minutes in, he was able to grab his first ever Major League Soccer goal. But yeah, that of course was the final action of this game, as Dallas in the end win 4-1 against Portland Timbers 2, or later to turns out to be Portland Timbers. But the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 10 that T2 has, 2 shots on goal compared to 6 that Dallas had, 6 shots off target compared to 3 that Dallas had. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and Dallas had 60% possession compared to 40% possession that T2 had in this game. And again, this was a game that Dallas needed to win, which they did exactly that. And for Portland Timbers 2, or now I should say for the Timbers, I don't think they should worry about this that much, because again, they were basically punting this game away, knowing the fact that they have that very important game in the middle of the week against Club America in the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League. But now moving on into another game that finished 4-1 was the Quakes versus DC United. So, I said in the preview that I do send my regards to DC United fans, knowing the fact that they have to stay all the way up to 11 p.m. before they can watch their team play. Well, I am now even sending more deeper regards, knowing the fact that not only they have to do that, but now they have to see their team getting absolutely destroyed in the middle of the night. Although I will say this, when you actually watch how this game play out, this game actually was a lot closer than what people will think the scoreline basically indicated. And in some way, I would say DC did not play badly in this game. I mean, if they could have maybe took advantage or put away some of their chances that they had in this game, this could have been a whole different game than the 4-1 result actually show. But early in this game, and actually just 30 seconds into this one, Chofis Lopez scored his first ever MLS goal from K-Cal to make it 1-0. So just like this 4-1 result between Dallas and T2, this 4-1 result also featured an early goal, and the home side, of course, scored the early goal there. And then K-Cal would make it 2-0 in the 26th minute from Espinoza. And, I'm already excited of what K-Cal can do. But if he can continue to do what he has been doing this last two games, boy, oh boy, we might have a guy that could be in consideration for the U.S. men's national team. And I know that kind of maybe sounds like I'm getting carried away with the way that it's still a very small sample size with the way that he's looked so good in the first two games. But, the way that he has looked so far in these first two games, it's no wonder why I've heard rumors that Barcelona are potentially looking to try to snatch this kid up once he started to turn 18 years old. Now, DC did get one back in the 31st minute when Alfaro did score to make it 3-1 at that point, and, that was just some bad set-piece defending for the Quakes. And, I think if there's one negative coming out of this game for the Quakes is they still suck at defending set pieces, and that is something that I really hope it will be fixed this season, because if this team is going to maybe consider themselves playoff contender or maybe even win a playoff game, they need to sort out their set piece defending and also defense in general, because I thought in this game there were a couple of times they were kind of shaky on the defensive department. Now, in the 33rd minute, Chris Seitz was able to deny Paul Marie as the Quakes looked to restore that 2-goal advantage. DC was really pressing near the end of the half for the equalizer, but in the 42nd minute, Niam actually cleared Espinoza's shot off the line, and Espinoza actually does a good job to round the goalkeeper and trying to tap it into the empty net, but Moses Nian was in the right position to clear that one away to keep this one at 2-1, but unfortunately it wouldn't be 2-1 long, because in the 44th minute the Quakes eventually get that third goal and eventually did restore their 2-goal advantage, and it's Jackson Yu scored an absolute golazo from Tanner Beeson that I think is going to be in contention for goal of the week. And I don't really need to say much about that goal other than you should of course check it out, because that was just an absolute thunderous strike that he hit from about 25 yards out. Although one thing that I also want to say during this sequence is that as much as a lot of people will talk about the Jackson Yu goal, people will forget that Beeson actually got on the assist chart not because he basically set up this golazo for Jackson Yu, but more like he kind of mishit this ball as the ball was coming into the box, and yet somehow when he mishit it goes right back into the path of Jackson Yu, who basically hits a volley and basically ends up into the back of the net. So yeah, I don't know if Beeson kind of meant to set what turns out to be an absolute golazo that Jackson Yu would score, but I think in the end he probably are going to lie and say, yep, I definitely mean to kind of mishit that so that I can potentially set up the goal of the week that Jackson Yu probably is going to get with just such a lovely hit of a goal that he scored during that play. But yeah, at that point it was 3-1 in favor of the Quakes, and that would be the score heading into halftime. And in the second half, I thought the Quakes can potentially maybe go forward to get that fourth goal, because that goal has to really kill a lot of momentum that DC had ending there at the end of the half, because again, I thought DC was really looking threatening to try to tie the game up, but instead DC was determined to at least get one back and determined to get that second goal. Edison Flores did flash one wide in the 62nd minute before K-Kyle had a chance to make it 4-1 and score his second goal in the 81st minute, but unfortunately he hit that one straight to Chris Seitz. Then in the 84th minute, there was a mistake from JT Marcinkowski where he basically passed it straight to one of the DC player, and then a couple of seconds later it was Sorgar had a chance to basically hit it into the empty net, which he did get that shot off, but unfortunately that shot that he tried to shoot into the empty net was kind of a little bit too casual, and it did kind of allow Youngworth to clear that one off the line. So this was the second week in a row where we saw a Quakes player able to make a heroic clearance off the line, and I think after the game, it is pretty clear that JT Marcinkowski is going to buy a lot, by Youngworth a lot of thing, or buy Youngworth some lunch after this game, or dinner in this case, because this was a night game. Because yeah, I mean that was clearly a mistake that he of course made, and I really think JT in this first three games he has definitely not looked sharp, and has unfortunately kind of looked something similar to a certain Quakes goalkeeper, which I will not name, but you probably know who it is, that is performing in terms of the way that he has in the first three games. But just 1 minute later, it would be 4-1 in favor of the Quakes. And also, that this play, how Youngworth was able to clear that one off the line, this actually turns out to be a huge play, because rather this could potentially be 3-2 in favor of the Quakes and set up for a grandstand finish. On the very just a minute later, and on pretty much almost on the same attacking sequence, but on the other side, it's Jackson Yu that scored his second goal off the game from K-Cow to make it 4-1 in favor of the Quakes, and that was not a good goal for Chris Seitz to concede. I mean, that was a weakly headed shot from Jackson Yu, and Chris Seitz did kind of get a hand to it, but he definitely needs to be stronger in terms of trying to keep that one out. But yeah, in the end, it was a 4-1 win in favor of the Quakes, and the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 18 that DC had, 9 shots on goal compared to 7 that DC United has, 1 shot off target compared to 7 that DC United has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that DC had, and possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession that DC United has in this game. And again, I don't think DC played badly in this game, but the finishing was just not there in this one. And another thing that I also say about DC coming into this game is that I heard they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. So once they are able to get a lot of those guys back from the injury list, maybe this team is not going to be as bad as they've shown in the first or in the last 2 games. Because I think with what Losada has been doing to this DC team, I really like the idea and the approach that he is using with this team. But the problem is he just does not have the players to basically run this system. And once he does have the player to run this system, which a lot of those players that could potentially fit well in the system that Losada is currently on the injury list, well, once they of course come back, I think this DC team is going to be much dangerous than what we saw in the previous 2 games. But that being said, I am now going to switch the boards and look at the game that just happened a couple of minutes ago between Inter Miami and Nashville SC. So, in this game between Nashville versus Inter Miami, just like yesterday, where in terms of these matinee games that happen in the daytime, there was definitely not a lot of goals as we saw in the nightcap action, and things tend to be kind of a little bit slow, which that, of course, was kind of the case for a majority part of this game, although there was definitely a very controversial moment in this game in the second half, which we'll get into it in just a couple of minutes. But first, this is a very short-handed Inter Miami side coming into this game. Obviously, we heard the story of both Federico and Gonzalo Higuain had to go back to Argentina to attend their mother funeral, and certainly my thought and prayer and condolence does go out to both of those players. And then, of course, Figal was actually ruled out at the last minute and was a late scratch because he unfortunately suffered a knock during the pregame warm-up. So, yeah, Inter Miami was definitely short-handed coming into this. But at the same time, Pizarro, who I originally thought that he was not going to be available in this game, he actually was available in the starting 11. And they were actually playing him in the spot that Higuain is in, which I don't think that was a great idea in Phil Neville's part, because, Pizarro, we know that he clearly is not a number 10, and yet for whatever reason Inter Miami kind of act like he is a number 10, but he definitely clearly is not a number 9 player. And I don't think Pizarro during his time in his career, even before when he was with Rayados, he has ever played in that number 9 position. So that was kind of really surprising. Not just the fact that he was in the starting 11, but he was actually given the number 9 spot in this game. Now, early on in this one, there was a big chance for Lewis Morgan to get the opening goal for Miami, but Willis was able to deny him. Then Willis would rob Chapman, who had a chance to hit it from short range in the 6th minute. And again, Nashville once again off to a slow start in this game, and thankfully this time it did not resort into them going down 2-0, and they can pretty much thank the goalkeeper for not preventing them to once again go down 2-0 to start this match. The game did start to become disjointed, with chances started to kind of become a premium between both of these teams, although there was a chance in the 31st minute when Godoy's shot deflected just wide before Mukhtar just dragged his shot a little bit wide as he went through on goal. Lovitz did have a chance to blast one from close range, but unfortunately blast that one high. But we had to halftime 0-0 between both of these teams, and heading into the second half, again, not much happened in the first 15 minutes where it was very disjointed, and you can clearly see Inter Miami was playing for a 0-0 draw. Like, they was just sitting back and bunkering in their own half, and this is kind of something that I was maybe expecting a lot of teams that are going to do against Nashville, knowing the fact that Nashville last season, they do struggle in terms of trying to break down and their opposition. I thought many teams were trying to maybe set up in a bunker and kind of force Nashville to try to break them down. They are able to score any goals, and in this game it once again showed that they had a lot of trouble in terms of trying to break down this Inter Miami defense that was very resolute. But then in the 69th minute, this is when the controversial moment of the game happened, when there was no red card given to Walker Zimmerman after VAR ruled that Zimmerman did not commit a denial of goal score opportunity on Robbie Robinson. Now, when I look on the replay a couple of times, I thought this should have been a red card and should have been denial of goal score opportunity for Zimmerman. And even though Romney was in the vicinity to kind of come back to trying to track him down, when Zimmerman actually committed this foul on Robinson, and when he decided to bring him down outside the box, Romney was actually not in the vicinity or in an area where he can, of course, track back to make a defensive play there. And if that's the case, then that's clearly a denial of goal scored opportunity. And in fact, the referee originally was thinking about reaching his back pocket, and they said in the broadcast with John Champion and Taylor Twellman, they said that he actually decided not to reach the red card because his assistant referee says that it was just going to be a yellow card. Now, they did obviously go to VAR to see whether or not if that is the case. And I just thought that the longer the VAR actually went, and this is kind of actually quote what Taylor Twellman said, the longer this VAR goes, the more I think that this is probably not going to overturn, because we've seen before where when you have a referee look at the monitor for a very long time, usually they feel like it's not conclusive enough to basically overturn it, and they decide to stick to the original call. So that's the reason why I guess maybe that might be the reason why that wasn't given a red card. Like, if this was actually first given a red card and then they of course look at the monitor, then there's no doubt that I think if they spend kind of the similar time as they did in this play, they also will not overturn the red card. But because of the fact that the original decision was a yellow card and they took a very long time to look at the monitor, when you see that, rarely we see referee actually decide to overturn the call. But still, I don't think that was the correct call, and I think Nashville really got away with one there, and especially Walker Zimmerman. Pretty happy the fact that he received only a yellow card on that play, even though he clearly should have been off in this one. Now, in the 78th minute, Robbie Robinson had to be subbed off, and he actually was subbed in this game around the 62nd minute mark, which was kind of surprising because last week he did suffer a hamstring injury, and I was thinking he was not going to be playing in this one, and that they decided to kind of sub him in to think that he might be okay to play in this game despite having that hamstring injury that he suffered last week. And it didn't take long before that hamstring injury that he's been bothering throughout the week comes back to bite him, and he, of course, was subbed off during that point. Nashville, of course, for the last 12 minutes was pushing for the winner. Dominico Bacci had a chance to give Nashville the opening goal, but unfortunately he missed wide on a free header. And in the end, it ends in a goalless draw between both of these teams. And in some way, I'm kind of happy that it ended in a goalless draw, because if Nashville actually win this, boy, I bet Inter Miami fans are going to be absolutely fuming the fact that that red card that should have been given in the 69th minute, that is the reason why it cost them the game. But the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to just 5 that Miami has, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Miami has, 5 shots off target for the 1 that Inter Miami has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Inter Miami had in this game. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of this game and also the 6 games that happened in yesterday nightcap action. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these resort, and remember, we still got 2 more games later tonight between the Seattle Sounders versus LA Galaxy and the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the Colorado Rapids. That Whitecaps versus Rapids match actually kicked off about an hour later than the Galaxy versus Sounders game. That's going to kick off around 6:20 p.m. So by the time I do the review of those last 2 games, it will be around 9 o'clock. But at least I'm going to be doing the review right around then, and not what I originally was thinking about doing, the review of the nightcap action right after when that game between the Quakes and DC United finished, which was like around 10 o'clock. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, if you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.